Of course, we'll take a little time to talk about the Knicks before we throw it to a break. Again, it just goes to show you don't blow a game when you have a 99.5% win probability. We're talking about a completely different series right now. But alas, they did not. This team that put together and assembled a roster with dethroning the champs in mind did that, but they didn't necessarily achieve the ultimate goal. They owe a lot of people a lot of money beginning next year. I guess it's kind of a where do they go from here question if they don't make it out of the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah, that's a tough one too, because on one hand, this team got back to the conference finals finally for the first time in forever. But on the other hand, it's clear that there is some sort of ceiling here. And there is. It feels that way, at least. Watching them play, it's just this whole series, everything has looked so much easier for the Pacers and the Knicks. Even the game the Knicks made the comeback, which they've made 3 of those now, 3 20-point comebacks at this point. I'm not saying that that's luck or anything like that. That's clearly in their DNA to just keep playing, play hard, eventually work your way back in, hang around long enough, and then jump when you have the opportunity. But it's just everything has been so much easier for Indiana than it has New York. And, there's been the rumblings about the on-off numbers with Cat and Jalen Brunson and can they coexist? And Jalen Brunson only has 1 assist to Karl-Anthony Towns so far through the first 4 games of the series, which is absolutely crazy. When I saw that today, I was like, I almost have to look that up to make sure that's actually accurate. But then kind of on the flip side of what we were talking about with Pascal, I think part of the tricky part for the Knicks is that they don't know what version of OG and what version of Mikal Bridges they're going to get on a night-to-night basis. Scoring hasn't been super consistent. Defensively, they always bring it. Those two always bring it defensively. But Josh Hart is the, model glue guy in the NBA. But you're not expecting him to go out there and score you even 15 points. If he gives you 10, that's a good night. There are nights where he can score more than that. There are nights where he'll score less than that. But he's going out there to hustle. Cat and Jalen Brunson, obviously, they got to be your 2 guys. But then, there's got to be somebody else that steps up, whether it's OG or Mikal, and they don't know where they're getting that offense from on a night-to-night basis. Yes, OG might give you 15, but Mikal Bridges had some games like he did against Celtics where in the fourth quarter, he was absolutely lights out and couldn't miss a single shot, and the mid-range looked like he was Michael Jordan, and, that's just how it goes. And then there are other nights where, he scored less than 10 points in a game, and it's just well, that's not what we gave up 5 first-round picks for. So I think that's part of the trickiness of where the Knicks go from here is really assessing okay, what's the difference here? Where did we really where did the wheels fall off where we couldn't get past this Indiana team even though we were good enough to beat Boston? And is Pascal and OG is Mikal and OG redundant? Is there too much overlap between those 2 players? And maybe we have to bring in a different style of player who can still defend on the wing because, at some point you're going to have to defend the Jays again if you want to get through to the finals. You're going to have to, beat the Pacers again in how fast they like to play and have athletic wings that can, guard on the perimeter and everything like that if you want to get to the finals. And, the list goes on. But, at some point, do you look at that roster and say, all right, there's too much overlap between OG and Mikal. Maybe we have to move off of one of these guys to bring in someone who is more consistent on the offensive end. So it, takes a little bit of pressure off of Jalen Brunson, takes a little bit of pressure off of Cat. I don't think that it's as knee-jerk reaction as year 1 of Cat and Jalen Brunson, Eastern Conference Finals, we, met our ceiling and all right, we got to ship out Cat. I don't think it's as far as that, but I do think there is some retooling that might have to go on in New York this offseason. Again, we're talking about this, assuming that the Pacers are going to handle their business and close out this series. But, beyond just finding more valuable depth pieces and getting people to come to New York to contribute off the bench, within the fine lines they have of the little flexibility that they have in terms of salary cap, that's obviously a priority as well. But I do think at some point they're going to have to look in the mirror and say, okay, do we want to move forward with Keller? Or do we want to move forward with OG?
Yeah, I think it's going to get uncomfortable a little bit. Like you said, we're seeing it right now, the starting lineup conversations flipping Josh Hart for Mitchell Robinson. And whereas we see a lot of teams who have too much and they have to consolidate some of their talent in a big package for a star, the Knicks might find themselves in a situation where they need to figure out which one of those guys have the most value that they're comfortable parting ways with. And a reminder, they don't have any more draft picks because of that Bridges trade to bring him in. You say what you want. It worked for that sole purpose of getting past Boston. But, are you going to trade, if it's OG, if it's Mikal, if it's Mitchell Robinson, if it's Mitchell Robinson and Josh Hart, to bring in 3 or 4 more guys, because as we're learning right now, maybe this is a new league that we're going into, especially with it being a copycat league. If we are to see Indiana and Oklahoma City in the finals, 2 teams who really do boast the fact and hang their hats on the fact they can go 10, 11 deep on any given night, or they have 12 guys that they trust to play, especially given how much talent there is in the world. We could see the Knicks try to follow suit, although they have a head coach that doesn't necessarily adhere to playing like that. So that's kind of the interesting stylistic thing. And I'm not necessarily saying that he needs to be on the hot seat or anything like that, but it's definitely an interesting dynamic that we'll see with the Knicks and the copycat aspect of it, and what happens if we do see one of the Pacers and Thunder advance to the finals and win the NBA championship. Thanks for checking out NBA Sound System Canada on YouTube. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe below and find us wherever you get your podcasts. And on Instagram, we have weekly episodes and bonus content throughout the week.